Blog Talk Radio.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Superhero Academy. I'm your host, Crossfire the Crusader, here with another wonderful half hour of learning how we can impact our communities around us with creative activism. And today I want to introduce our very special guest. Our visiting professor this week is the singing superhero from Atlanta, Georgia herself, Danger Woman. Danger Woman, say hi to everybody.
Hello, all you fans in Superhero Land.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, we talk about lots of different subjects. We've talked about animal rights activism, animal rescue. We've talked about feeding the homeless. We've talked about many different causes and many different ways that we can impact things. We've even talked about how to build the proper superhero utility belt. And we've talked about people like the real Santa Claus and the real St. Nicholas and the real St. Patrick. But today we're going to talk about something completely different because our guest here, Danger Woman, is a rather unique persona in a community of unique personas. I would like to just point out she is. Now, Danger, what exactly you are developmentally disabled in some way? What is the exact nature of your disability? I cannot remember.
I am a high-functioning person with autism, Asperger's syndrome.
That's correct. I remember that. I do have an unknown caller here. Unknown caller, if you are in the chat room and identify yourself, I'll let you on. But as a rule, until I know who you are, I don't bring you on the air just because I've had some issues here, and we don't have much time to pursue. But Danger Woman, tell us again, how did you become going from just being regular person X to become Danger Woman, the singing superhero? How did this happen? Tell us how you began.
My origins.
Yes, ma'am.
I was a disabled prisoner of conscience, a political prisoner with a disability who got locked up for loving a gay man. And I didn't even know he was gay until I was old enough to understand.
And so how did you become Danger Woman?
I was a victim of experimentation by forced prescription drug abuse and lethal doses of Z radiation, which when combined, along with the fact I would be threatened, that's when they came out. And I became a superhero, and I've been using these powers ever since in the service of justice and righteousness. And I also right wrongs and give evil a headache with my singing stylings of songs of the day, anime, movie, TV, Sentai theme songs.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about your message as you're out there and you're at places like the conventions and in public functions and that. Tell people how about the disability rights mission that you're on.
Well,
how it began.
Well, I am the little lady that loves to sing and educate people about disability sensitivity.
Well, you've got the microphone right now, so do me a favor, educate us. I've personally not been able to hear your message, and I know several of my listeners are also interested in hearing your message, so don't be nervous. You can do this. Take a deep breath and just tell us all about what would Danger Woman tell the world while she's got the microphone.
Well, people with disabilities, we have come a long way over the past 50 years. See, for a long time, people, we were kept invisible and hidden because of the internalized and externalized disabophobia that had really was caused by political bigotry and disabophobic insensitivity. I know that we had to fight tooth and nail for our right to go to school with non-disabled children. Of course, when the mothers tried to convince the late Richard Nixon about letting their kids go to school, he shooed them away, said, "I don't have the time for the likes of you. I've got enough trouble with Watergate. Now shoo, I don't care. Special ed kids don't deserve to go to school." That's what Richard Nixon said. But then they convinced the late Gerald Ford, who reluctantly passed the law that gave disabled children the right to go to school with non-disabled children. This was in November of 1975, to be exact. Of course, these kids did grow up to become disability rights activists in their own way. And they convinced the late Ronald Reagan and then George Herbert Walker Bush Jr. about their rights to be in the community. That's why they fought tooth and nail with their congresspersons to demand that they have the Americans with Disabilities Act. And it's been about 21 years this July since this law became real. I should mention, fans, that it's hard work being a disability rights activist. Sometimes you have to stand your ground and stare at the villains with disabophobia and tell them a thing or three. Of course, we even had to fight for our right to live in the community. Of course, you may have also heard about the pardon of the disabled, have you?
I have not, but tell us all about that.
If it weren't for two brave ladies named Lois Curtis and the late Elaine Wilson, people with disabilities would never have gotten their day in court and given a fair trial or a hearing. You see, for many years here in Georgia, people with disabilities were kept locked up forever in the mental hospital without a fair trial or hearing or even the right to go to school just because their only crime is a crime of genetic innocence born with a disability. And Lois Curtis and Elaine Wilson and a brave lawyer named Sue Jameson, they sued the state of Georgia Department of Human Resources and then Commissioner Thomas Tommy Olmsted for $1 gajillion and won. And I tell you, they did beat the stuffing out of that mean old Tommy Olmsted for what he did. But then mean old Thurgood Baker, who at the time was Attorney General, along with Roy Barnes, who was the governor of Georgia, they went to the U.S. Supreme Court and demanded that Lois Curtis and Elaine Wilson and every disabled citizen in America be kept locked up forever. But the brave, kind-hearted U.S. Supreme Court grown-ups decided that they have suffered enough, that locking up disabled people forever is wrong, that locking up disabled people without a fair trial or a hearing is morally wrong, and that they decided to pardon the disabled. That's why they have the Olmsted decision, also known as the pardon of the disabled, which gave the disabled a judicial pardon. But it wasn't until 2001 that we convinced George Bush Jr. to give us a presidential pardon. We had a lot of disabled people come all the way to Washington to testify on Capitol Hill to please make the Olmsted decision a law. And so after being pressured by the media and the disabled citizens of America, and the fact that he was threatened with possibly getting in hot water with the disability voters, Mr. George Bush Jr. signed into law an executive order and decree declaring that the Pardon of the Disabled becomes law immediately. And it was really touching that Mr. Bush Jr. did something right. Even if he did no-nos for his shameful crimes, which is another ball of wax, he did something right for the disabled. I should mention that that people with disabilities, because of the Olmstead Pardon, they sued for their freedom, and most of them got their freedom and their right to live in the community, and the right to get married too. In case you didn't know, because people with disabilities for a long time they were forbidden to have children, which is also wrong. And two wrongs do not make a right, fans. Yes, Lord Malignus, I know what you're thinking. You still believe the lie that your mommy and daddy told you that disabled people are bad people. Well, blast it, we're not bad people. We're human beings with human feelings. And there is a personal antidote about the pardon. I had to deal with Roy Barnes himself on national television, for that matter. You see, I was trying to avenge the death of the Blue Blazer, another real-life superhero. He was murdered at the hands of the cruel WWE grown-ups. And I beat up the stuffing out of that vile villain, Kevin Kelly. And just when I won, Roy Barnes butted his nose in, and he was mad at me. And do you know why he was mad at me, Crossfire?
What is that? Hello?
I will tell you. He was mad at me because I was supportive of the pardon of the disabled, or the Olmstead decision. And he wanted to kill me on national television in front of 40 million viewers on USA Network. And yes, it was also mentioned in I, Superhero, for those of you out there who are book lovers.
Very interesting. Everybody, this is Crossfire the Crusader with the Superhero Academy. We are here today with our visiting professor, Danger Woman from Atlanta, Georgia, who is telling us about the history of disability rights activism. If you want to call in with your questions, area code 917-889-3317. That's 917-889-3317. We're taking everything except blocked calls. If you're a blocked caller, you have to go to the chat room and let me know who you are. I'll respect you not showing your phone number, but I do need to know who you are before I bring you on. So anybody that has a question for Danger Woman, you can pose it to me in the chat room. Of course, Lord Malignus wants to just point it out. Of course, he's allowing you to say this. He agrees with me. We've talked before, and I know he does support the rights of the disabled, so he is on our side on this one, Danger Woman.
Mm-hmm. I should mention
even our supervillains know the disabled are have the right to exist, to do things that other people do. Disability is not a right to be criticized again or discriminated against. Even our real life supervillains agree that discrimination stinks.
Yes, it smells like Carissa the skunk.
Mm-hmm.
One of my Danger Force pets.
So
but to get back on track, Roy Barnes did try to kill me.
How did we get to? Let's go into another subject. How did you get to be the singing superhero? Now, at what point did you begin the karaoke program you do?
One of the powers I learned is that I have ultra-singing. I can sing when I use my ultrasonics in my voice. And when I sing around the forces of evil, that's when they get such a headache. My singing is so bad to the villains, it gives them a headache. Especially Lord Malignus.
So, Danger Woman, what is your favorite music to sing? What's your favorite type of songs?
Well, I do sing songs of the current moment. I also sing anime, movie, TV, Sentai theme songs. And of course, yes, I have translated the theme sang the English language rendition of the theme from Gatchaman, translated from the Japanese. And just recently, I added a new song to my repertoire. I just had the honor of translating the classic Marvel toy show from 1979 called Battle Fever J. I translated it into an English language version so that people would understand. Of course, I have a music video on YouTube about that in which I sing the theme from Battle Fever J in English. Because after all, Mojo, the one who originally sang Battle Fever J in Japanese, can do something like that, then why can't Danger Woman do an English language version for a new generation of fans?
I agree. I heard a rumor that not only are you an honorary member of Team Justice, but that Master Legend is trying to get the band together to do an album with you. Is that true?
It is the truth. It might lead to a possible album from my friends at Old Gold here in Atlanta, and maybe a national deal. I'm hoping that if some big-time record label would pay attention and overcome their internalized and externalized disablephobia and open the lines of communication, then I know I'll be able to go national. And speaking of that, I do have a movie as well called Disabled But Able to Rock.
I remember that. I forgot to ask about that.
World premiere. It's coming. In case you don't know, I am supposed to have it released at the Atlanta Film Festival on May 4th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time at the Plaza Theater in Midtown Atlanta, Georgia.
Your danger sense must have just went off because Midnight Detective brought that up. Midnight Detective asked me to bring that up to you about the premiere of that at the Atlanta Film Festival. And I'm assuming Danger Woman is going to be attending as the guest of honor for that. Would that be correct?
That is correct, Crossfire.
You know if the rest of your Team Justice teammates are going to be up there for that?
Well, I got to make sure I've already sent invitations to a cross-representation of real-life superhero delegations. I target my audiences when I promote my movie. You got to know your target audience if one is to have a successful promotional thing in promoting a movie such as mine. I even invited nearly everyone on my Facebook list to see my movie. And yes, I did invite Adam West, TV's Batman himself. And yes, I did invite Feedback and his wife, Sarah. Speaking of which, my danger sense is starting to go off again, Crossfire. I can't shake this feeling, but before Easter at the earliest, or the end of this month at the latest, Feedback's going to really become a first-time father because his wife will give birth to his child. Oh, my gosh. If it happens before Easter, not only will the kid have a birthday, he'll celebrate Easter soon after.
Now, we've got about 11 minutes left. Anybody, again, that has any questions for our Danger Woman, I'll keep one caller by her secret identity name, and I apologize for that. I'm going to let that slip out. Do call in, area code 917-889-3317. And I have another caller, area code 917. You're on Superhero Academy.
Hi, this is Samaritan Prime.
Samaritan Prime, thank you for calling in. You're on Crossfire the Crusader with Crossfire and Danger Woman.
How you doing?
I am very honored to be talking with you, kind sir.
Likewise. I wanted to ask you, Danger Woman, if possibly you had any links or internet information about the upcoming movie.
If you want to go to my movie, go to www.atlantafilmfestival.com and RSVP your tickets. And I would suggest doing it now because rumor has it on the street and on the internet that this movie premiere is going to sell out. It'll be standing room only. So if I were you, sir, I would get my tickets not only for yourself, but also your team of fellow heroic characters.
Well, I'll definitely look into that. Thank you.
And make sure that you come in a limo bus, because limo buses with a wheelchair lift are stylish and ADA friendly.
Oh, very cool.
At least, after all, it's not every day I get to talk to a legend like you, Mr. Samaritan.
Oh, I wouldn't consider myself a legend. I've only been around a couple of years. There have guys who've been doing this much longer than I have. I actually think you were in the community before I was.
I've been around since 1992, to be exact.
Yes, yes.
And I've been keeping Atlanta safe, even though it's not easy, my friend. Somebody has to keep the city of Atlanta safe from evil triphobes and big bullies, especially those with disabophobia. Of course, I don't think I told you this, but I'm
I do want to
very
point out
happy
there's another link for you on the movie.
Yes?
If you're interested in the movie, there's another link, www.dangerwomanmovie.com. You can also find out about the movie.
Awesome.
I will tell you that I'm very honored to meet you, Samaritan Prime, and I hope that you will come to my premiere. And I would suggest start planning for it right now, because rumor has it that the downtown hotels might get filled up for this special event. But I would recommend the best hotel in Atlanta for downtown. I would suggest looking into the Westin Peachtree Plaza. That's my preferred hotel, not only for my visiting superheroes, but also one of the many official hotels for my convention, Dragon Con. And they will treat you like royalty there.
Awesome. So if I'm ever in town, I'll definitely check into that hotel.
Because it's my preferred official hotel. And I will tell you that I would suggest taking either AirTran or Southwest. And speaking of AirTran, in case you haven't been keeping up with current event scans, they're getting married to Southwest. And it's going to be official sometime later this year, according to what I've been told through my informants on the business front.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know about that. I don't really fly much. I usually travel over land.
Of course. I should mention that they do have lots of parking at the Westin Peachtree Plaza, and they have superb valet parking.
It looks like we've got about 5 minutes remaining, so
look at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Time sure flies when you're having a good time, Crossfire.
It sure does. This has been a really, really good show, very informative. I love a person that has as much passion. I don't know if I've talked to anybody else since I've done the show that quite has the passion for their mission that you have, Danger Woman. I want to thank you for that. And the knowledge of your subject is also very, very well. You tend to set a very good example for people about, how to respect people who are have disabilities, such like that. I want to thank you for being here, and of course we're going to wrap things up here. And I just want to touch base on the next few weeks. Next week we're going to have Urban Avengers going to be with us. Urban Avengers is going to talk to us about the Extreme Justice League, their hunt for the Chula Vista Groper, and their recent work with the city government where they're at. That they're actually getting some official standing, and basically they're becoming well known where they're at. And the mayor himself is asking for their help on certain things. He's going to share that with us. The following weekend is Easter weekend, and we're going to have a roundtable discussion with several of our Christian superheroes about my personal hero, the Lord Jesus Christ. The following weekend from that, the first weekend of May, is going to be Geist, tentatively Geist, talking about the coloring book project that he's working on. I have a special program for Mother's Day. I'm going to keep it kind of secret right now, but it's a group of mothers that are doing some stuff for children with cancer. the following
The
weekend
National
from there, I've got,
Association of Mothers Unions. I love them.
well, this is actually even a different one. I've got the Crimson Fist coming on the 15th of May. Zimmer is penciled in for the 22nd of May. And then on the 29th of May, we're going to have our Memorial Day program with the Patriot. Coming up in June, Stormbringer. Stormbringer's going to be with us here the first weekend of June to talk about animal rights activism. The 12th of June, we will be broadcasting live from Metropolis, Illinois at the Superman Festival. And on the 19th of June, Father's Day, I'm going to be talking about child ID kits and child safety. I don't know if I have a guest on that one, but this is a passion of mine, is preventing child abductions and helping the police to find missing children. On the 26th, we have the return of Artisteroy, and the subject will be Trick Your Supermobile. And then on the 3rd of July, for our 4th of July program, Valerie Finnegan will be talking to us about the project Real Tales from Iraq and Real Tales from the World Trade Center and beyond. The series of comic books based on real adventures of our soldiers and our rescue workers, and the proceeds from this is going to help the families and the soldiers that are involved in these conflicts. So we've got a lot of good programs coming up. I want to thank everybody for being here with us. Danger Woman, is there anything you want to say before we go?
Well, fans, I guess it's goodbye. But do not be sad. You'll hear and see from me real soon. Until we meet on the net, at DragonCon, and at the world premiere of Descendants of Iraq. This is Danger Woman signing off. Get on!
All right, Samaritan Firm, anything you want to say before we go?
I had a great time calling in. This is my first time. Been listening to the show for a few weeks. I just want to say thank you to everyone. It's great to get to speak to you and to get to speak to Danger Woman. You really know your topic. And I admire your zeal for going after your mission.
All right. And Samaritan Time, you did note here that you'd love to be part of the Father's Day program. I'm going to go ahead and extend an official invitation for you to be with me when we talk about child ID kits and child safety on Father's Day.
Well, that sounds great because I'm a father myself, and the safety of children is one of my primary concerns.
Well, you are the guest for that day. I've got you penciled in. I was going to do it solo, but I'll be more than glad to have you in here. And we'll touch base on that between now and then, make sure we got a good show for that.
Awesome.
I want to thank everybody that's called in. This is Crossfire the Crusader for Superhero Academy. Signing off. I will see you next week. Same cross time, same cross channel. Everybody get ready because here comes the theme song.
Bye-bye.
We're men in tights. We roam around the forest looking for light. We're men in tights. We run from the rich and give to the poor, that's right. We may look like city, but what would you say, or else we'll put after life. We're men in tights. Always on guard, defending the people's rights. La 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 We're men in tights. Yeah, we roam around the forest looking for fight. We're men in tights. We run from the rich and give